On a grey October morning in 2018, two women arrived at the same funeral home in Chicago, each believing they were the widow of Robert James Mitchell. Catherine Mitchell, 58 years old, arrived from the north side with her 3 adult children. Linda Mitchell, 55 years old, arrived from the south side with her 3 adult children as well. Neither woman knew the other existed. Neither family knew the other existed. And within the next hour, both families would discover that the man they loved, the man they mourned, the man they thought they knew, had been living a double life for more than 30 years. This is the story of how one man managed to maintain 2 complete families, 2 complete lives, in the same city for 3 decades. How he loved 2 women, how he raised 6 children, how he attended school plays and graduations and weddings twice over, and how in death he would finally bring together the 2 halves of his fractured life, forcing everyone to confront an impossible truth. But to understand how this happened, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to 1982, when Robert Mitchell was a young man of 25, with a simple life and no idea that he was about to split that life in 2. Robert James Mitchell was born in 1957 in a working-class neighborhood on the west side of Chicago. He was the youngest of 4 boys, raised by a factory worker father and a seamstress mother. The family didn't have much money, but they had each other, and that seemed to be enough. Robert was a bright kid, good at math, good with his hands. After high school, he got a job as an electrician's apprentice. The work was steady, the pay was decent, and Robert was good at it. He had a natural understanding of how things worked, how circuits connected, how power flowed. By the time he was 23, he'd gotten his electrician's license and was working for a large commercial electrical company. In 1980, at a friend's birthday party, Robert met Catherine O'Brien. She was 20 years old, studying to be a teacher, with red hair and green eyes and a laugh that made Robert's heart skip. They dated for a year, fell deeply in love, and married in the spring of 1981. Catherine was practical and organized, the perfect complement to Robert's easygoing nature. She finished her degree and got a job teaching 3rd grade at a school on the north side. Robert continued working as an electrician. They rented a small apartment, saved their money, talked about buying a house and starting a family. Life was simple. Life was good. Robert loved his wife, loved his work, loved the life they were building together. In early 1982, Catherine got pregnant. They were overjoyed. Robert painted the spare bedroom yellow, put together a crib, read books about parenting. Their daughter Emily was born in September 1982, and Robert thought his life was complete. But in November of that same year, everything changed. Robert's company won a major contract to rewire several buildings on the south side of Chicago. It was a big job, 6 months of work, and Robert was assigned as one of the lead electricians. The hours were long, the commute from the north side was brutal, and Robert found himself spending 12, sometimes 14 hours a day on the job site. One evening in December, working late to finish a deadline, Robert stopped at a diner near the work site to grab dinner. The place was nearly empty. Just him and a waitress, who looked as tired as he felt. Her name was Linda Martinez. She was 22 years old with dark hair and dark eyes, and a gentleness about her that Robert found soothing after a long day of work. They struck up a conversation. She told him she was working 2 jobs, trying to save money to go to nursing school. He told her about his work, about the baby at home, about how exhausted he was. "Sounds like you need more than coffee," Linda said with a sympathetic smile. "Sounds like you need a friend." It was innocent at first. Robert would stop at the diner after work a few times a week. He and Linda would talk about their lives, about their dreams, about nothing in particular. It was just conversation, just 2 people connecting. But over weeks, it became something more. Robert found himself thinking about Linda during the day, looking forward to seeing her, staying later at work just so he could stop at the diner before heading home. He told himself it was just friendship, that he wasn't doing anything wrong, that he loved Catherine. And he did love Catherine. That was the confusing part. He loved his wife, he loved his daughter, but there was something about Linda that drew him in, something he couldn't quite name or resist. In February 1983, 3 months after meeting Linda, Robert kissed her for the first time. It happened late one night when the diner was empty. She was wiping down tables. He was sitting at the counter finishing his coffee, and suddenly they were looking at each other, and the air between them felt electric. "I shouldn't," Robert said, even as he stood up, even as he walked toward her. "I know," Linda whispered. But she didn't pull away when he kissed her. That night marked the beginning of Robert's double life. He started seeing Linda regularly, meeting her after her shifts, taking her to places far from his neighborhood where no one would recognize him. He told himself it was temporary, that he'd end it soon, that this was just a phase, just a moment of weakness. But weeks became months, and Robert didn't end it, couldn't end it, because the truth was, he loved Linda too. Different from how he loved Catherine, but just as real, just as deep. Catherine noticed her husband was distant, distracted. "You're working too much," she'd say. "You're never home anymore." "It's this South Side project," Robert would explain. "It's killing me. But it'll be done soon, and then things will go back to normal." But normal never came, because in May 1983, Linda told Robert she was pregnant. Robert felt his world implode. He sat in his truck in the diner parking lot, his hands shaking on the steering wheel, trying to process what Linda had just told him. Pregnant. She was pregnant with his child. "What are we going to do?" Linda asked, tears streaming down her face. She knew about Catherine. Robert had told her he was married, though he'd downplayed it, made it sound like his marriage was struggling, like he and Catherine were practically separated. "I don't know," Robert said honestly. "I don't know." He drove home that night in a fog, walked into his apartment where Catherine was feeding baby Emily, looked at his wife, at his daughter, at this life he'd built, and knew he should confess, should end things with Linda, should choose his family. But he couldn't do it. Because when he thought about never seeing Linda again, never holding the child she was carrying, something in him rebelled. He loved her. He loved them both. And he couldn't choose. So Robert Mitchell made a decision that would define the next 35 years of his life. He decided not to choose. He decided to have both. He would keep both families, love both women, raise both sets of children, live two complete lives. It should have been impossible. In any rational world, it would have been impossible. But Robert was methodical, organized, and lucky. He sat down and planned it out like an electrical circuit, mapping every connection, every potential short, every possible way it could all go wrong. His job was the key. As an electrician, he could justify irregular hours. He told Catherine he'd taken on a second long-term contract on the South Side. More money for their future, he explained, but it meant irregular schedules, late nights, sometimes overnight jobs. He told Linda he worked rotating shifts, that his schedule was unpredictable. She accepted it. She was just grateful he was there for her at all. Robert rented a small efficiency apartment halfway between the two neighborhoods. Officially, he told Catherine it was for nights when he worked too late to drive home safely. In reality, it was where he kept his second life supplies, second set of clothes, second phone. He opened a second bank account under his middle name, James. His paycheck was split. Catherine thought he was taking on extra jobs for the overtime. He was, but not the kind she imagined. And when Linda's baby was born in December 1983, a boy they named Michael, Robert was there. He held his son, cut the umbilical cord, filled out the birth certificate. Father, Robert Mitchell. 3 months later, Catherine got pregnant again. Their son David was born in November 1984. Robert was there for that birth too. Same joy, same pride, same overwhelming love. By 1985, Robert Mitchell had 2 complete families. Catherine and the kids on the north side, Linda and the kids on the south side. 2 wives who both believed they were his only wife. 2 sets of children who had no idea they had half-siblings across town. The logistics were insane. Robert created elaborate schedules in his head. Monday, Wednesday, Friday nights on the north side. Tuesday, Thursday nights on the south side. Weekends alternated, with work emergencies providing cover for the family he wasn't with. Holidays were the hardest. He'd spend Christmas morning with Catherine's family, then claim an emergency call and rush to spend Christmas evening with Linda's family. Thanksgiving was split similarly. Birthdays required careful planning and believable excuses. And somehow, impossibly, he made it work. year after year after year. Catherine had no reason to suspect anything. Robert was a devoted father when he was home. He helped with homework, went to Emily's dance recitals, coached David's little league team. Yes, he worked a lot, but lots of men did. This was Chicago in the 80s and 90s. Providing for your family meant long hours and hard work. Linda had no reason to suspect either. Robert was attentive when he was with her. He helped with Michael, supported her when she finally went to nursing school, was there for every important moment he could manage. His irregular schedule was frustrating, but she understood, or thought she did. In 1987, Catherine got pregnant again. A surprise, but a welcome one. Their third child, Sarah, was born in March 1988. In 1989, Linda got pregnant. Their daughter, Jessica, was born in October, and still Robert maintained both lives. 3 children in each family. 2 mortgages, because by then he'd helped Linda buy a small house on the south side, while maintaining the house he and Catherine had bought on the north side. The money should have been impossible, but Robert was resourceful. He took every overtime job offered. Started his own side business doing residential electrical work. Worked 70, sometimes 80-hour weeks. His health suffered, he was perpetually exhausted, but the bills got paid. Both families were provided for. The children grew. Emily and Michael, born months apart, both went to kindergarten, different schools in different neighborhoods. David and Jessica learned to walk, to talk, to read. Sarah, the youngest of Catherine's kids, and Jessica, the youngest of Linda's, were just a year apart in age. Robert went to school plays twice, parent-teacher conferences twice, Christmas pageants twice. He attended 2 different churches, had 2 different groups of friends, 2 completely separate lives, and the thing that haunted Robert, the thing he would never be able to explain, was that he loved them all, both wives, all 6 children. He wasn't simply living a lie. He was living 2 true lives. When he was with Catherine's family, he was fully present, fully committed. When he was with Linda's family, equally so. "I love you," he'd tell Catherine, and he meant it. "I love you," he'd tell Linda, and he meant that too. The years rolled on. 1990, 1995, 2000. Emily graduated high school, then college. Michael did the same, at different schools, in different years. One by one, the children grew up, never knowing their father had a complete parallel family just miles away. There were close calls. In 1998, Catherine's sister thought she saw Robert at a restaurant with another woman and children. Robert explained it was a work colleague he was mentoring whose family had joined them. Catherine believed him. Why wouldn't she? In 2003, one of Linda's neighbors commented that Robert looked familiar, like someone she'd seen at a North Side community event. Robert laughed it off, said he had one of those faces. Linda never questioned it. As the children became adults, the logistics got slightly easier in some ways, harder in others. Robert no longer had to attend as many school events, but now there were college graduations, engagements, weddings to navigate. Emily got married in 2007. Robert walked her down the aisle, tears in his eyes, proud beyond measure. Michael got married in 2008. Robert did the same. Different bride, different church, same profound love and pride. By 2010, Robert was in his 50s. The double life had taken its toll. He had high blood pressure, stress-related health issues, chronic fatigue, but he couldn't stop. How could he? Both families depended on him. Both wives loved him. All 6 children adored him. More importantly, how could he confess now, after nearly 30 years? The revelation would destroy everyone. Better to keep going, keep maintaining both lives. Die with the secret intact. Let them all remember him as the devoted husband and father he had actually been, even if that devotion was split in 2. David got engaged in 2015. Jessica got engaged in 2016. More weddings to plan, more elaborate scheduling required. Catherine turned 60 in 2020. Robert threw her a surprise party, rented out a hall, invited all their friends. The next month, Linda turned 57. Robert threw her a surprise party too. Different hall, different friends, same love and attention. And through it all, Robert kept his secret, kept both families separate, kept all the plates spinning in the air. It was exhausting. It was impossible. But he'd been doing it for so long that it had become his normal, his reality. In 2017, Robert started having chest pains. He ignored them at first. Too much to do, too many responsibilities. But the pains got worse, more frequent, more intense. He finally saw a doctor in early 2018. The diagnosis was bad. Advanced coronary artery disease. Years of stress, poor diet, lack of sleep had taken their toll. The doctor was blunt. Robert needed to reduce stress, change his lifestyle, possibly have surgery. But how could Robert reduce stress? His entire life was stress. The constant juggling, the constant lying, the constant fear of being discovered. And now, after 35 years, he didn't know how to stop. He told Catherine he had some heart issues, nothing serious. Told Linda the same. Both wives urged him to slow down, work less, take care of himself. He promised he would, but he didn't. Couldn't. In September 2018, Robert felt worse than usual. The chest pains were constant now, he could barely catch his breath. He scheduled a doctor's appointment for the following week. He never made it to that appointment. On October 15, 2018, Robert Mitchell died of a massive heart attack. He was at his efficiency apartment, the neutral space between his two lives, alone. The landlord found him 2 hours later, when Robert failed to answer calls from both his cell phones. Yes, he had two that were ringing simultaneously. The ambulance came, the police came. They found 2 phones, 2 wallets, 2 sets of everything. In one wallet, emergency contact, Catherine Mitchell. In the other, Linda Mitchell. Both women were called. Both were told their husband had died. Both were given the address of the apartment, and both, independently, arrived at the hospital within an hour of each other. Catherine got there first. She was brought to a private room where a social worker gently explained that her husband had passed. Catherine collapsed, sobbing. Her children, Emily, David, and Sarah, arrived soon after, holding their mother as she grieved. 30 minutes later, Linda arrived. She was brought to the same hospital, but the staff, not yet realizing the situation, brought her to the same private room. The door opened. Linda walked in, red-eyed and sobbing. Saw Catherine and 3 adults she didn't recognize, all crying. Assumed they were friends of Robert's from work. "I'm so sorry," Linda said through her tears. "I'm Linda, Robert's wife. I just can't believe he's gone." The room went silent. Catherine looked up, confusion on her tear-stained face. "What did you say?" "I'm Linda Mitchell, Robert's wife." Catherine stood up slowly. "There must be some mistake. I'm Catherine Mitchell, Robert's wife." The 2 women stared at each other. The world seemed to tilt, and in that moment, 35 years of careful deception began to unravel. The hospital staff quickly realized the situation and separated the families. But it was too late. The truth was out. Questions were asked. Timelines were compared. And the impossible reality became clear. Robert Mitchell had maintained 2 complete families for more than 3 decades. The funeral was scheduled for 5 days later, October 20th. Both families insisted they had the right to plan it. Both had legitimate claims. The funeral home had never dealt with anything like this. Finally, they suggested both families could attend, but perhaps separately. But Catherine and Linda both refused. This was their husband, their children's father. They had every right to be there, and neither was going to be excluded. So on that grey October morning, both families arrived at the funeral home, both believing they alone had the right to mourn, both about to discover just how deep Robert's deception had gone. The funeral home director tried to manage the situation, but it was chaos from the start. Catherine arrived with Emily, David, and Sarah. Linda arrived with Michael, Jessica, and her son, Jake. The 2 groups saw each other in the parking lot, and the air immediately filled with tension. They entered the building separately, but both headed to the same viewing room. The funeral home had set up chairs in rows, and both families took seats on opposite sides, glaring at each other across the casket. Robert lay in the coffin looking peaceful in death, unaware of the storm he'd left behind. Catherine approached the casket first, her children flanking her. She looked down at her husband of 37 years and felt a confusing mix of love, grief, and rage. "How could you?" she whispered. "How could you do this to us?" Then Linda approached from the other side. She too looked down at Robert, her hand covering her mouth as she sobbed. The service was supposed to start at 10 o'clock, but before it could begin, everything fell apart. It started when the minister, unaware of the full situation, began by saying, "We're here to celebrate the life of Robert Mitchell, beloved husband to Catherine, and loving father to Emily, David, and Sarah." "Excuse me," Linda stood up, her voice shaking. "He was also husband to me, and father to Michael, Jessica, and Jake." Catherine turned in her seat, eyes blazing. "You were not his wife. I was his wife, legally married since 1981. "I was legally married to him too," Linda shot back. "Since 1985. The room erupted. The minister looked confused, the funeral director looked panicked, and the 6 children, who up until 5 days ago had no idea they had half-siblings, stared at each other across the room. Emily stood up. "This is insane. My father wouldn't have... He couldn't have..." "Your father," Michael said coldly, "apparently could and did." The service never officially started. Instead, what happened was a raw, painful confrontation that would change all their lives forever. Catherine and Linda stood on opposite sides of the casket, both crying, both angry, both confused, and slowly, painfully, they began to share their stories. Catherine talked about meeting Robert in 1980, about their wedding in 1981, about Emily being born in 1982, about the life they'd built together over 37 years. Linda listened, her face growing paler, because her timeline overlapped. She met Robert in 1982. They'd been together since 1983. Michael was born in 1983. "That's impossible," Catherine said. "He was with me. He lived with me." "He lived with me too," Linda said. "He had his own key. His clothes were in the closet. He was there for birthdays, for holidays, for everything." The children started piecing it together. The times Dad had to work late, the emergency calls, the rotating schedule that never quite made sense, but that they'd accepted because he was Dad and you trusted Dad. David pulled out his phone, opened his photo gallery. "I have pictures of him at my high school graduation, June 2002. Jessica did the same. "I have pictures from mine, June 2002. They compared photos, different schools, different days, but same month, same proud father in both photos. Emily showed photos from her wedding in 2007, Robert walking her down the aisle. Michael showed photos from his wedding in 2008, Robert doing the same. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. Their father had lived 2 complete lives, had been fully present in both, had loved them all. "But how?" Sarah asked, the youngest, barely able to process this. "How could he do this? How could he lie to everyone for so long?" That was the question everyone was asking, and no one had an answer. Catherine sank into a chair, her entire understanding of her life crumbling. 37 years. 37 years I thought I knew my husband. Thought I had a normal marriage. Every night he wasn't home, I thought he was working. Every holiday he had to leave early, I thought it was an emergency. And all this time..." Linda was crying too. "He told me he worked irregular shifts, that his schedule was unpredictable. I believed him. I never questioned it because, why would I? He was a good man, a good father. He loved us. He loved us too," Catherine said, not contradicting, just stating a competing truth. The 2 women looked at each other across the room, and something passed between them. Not friendship, not understanding exactly, but recognition. Recognition that they were both victims of the same deception, both loving the same man, both betrayed in the exact same way. "I don't know whether to grieve or be angry," Linda said. "I think we can be both," Catherine replied. The funeral proceedings were suspended. The families needed time, space, to process this impossible situation. But something unexpected happened. Instead of leaving, instead of going their separate ways, the 2 families stayed, started talking, carefully, awkwardly, but talking. Emily and Michael, both firstborn, discovered they had the same wry sense of humor, the same way of tilting their head when thinking. They'd gotten that from Robert. David and Jessica realized they'd both played soccer in high school, different leagues but same position. Robert had coached them both. Sarah and Jake, the youngest, found they both loved reading, same favorite authors. Robert had instilled that in both of them. The 6 half-siblings circled each other like wary animals, not sure what to feel, but slowly realizing that they were connected, whether they wanted to be or not. They shared DNA. They shared a father. They shared a grief that no one else could understand. Catherine and Linda, meanwhile, sat down together away from everyone else. 2 women who should hate each other, who had every right to hate each other, but who were the only 2 people in the world who understood what the other was going through. "Did you love him?" Catherine asked. "Yes," Linda said without hesitation. "Did you?" "Yes, very much." They sat in silence for a moment. Was he different with you?" Linda asked. "Did he seem like a different person?" Catherine thought about it. "No, he was the same, gentle, funny, hard-working, devoted." "That's how he was with me too," Linda said, and there was something almost comforting in that. He hadn't been a different person with each of them. He'd been the same Robert, which somehow made it more confusing but also more real. "I don't understand how he did it," Catherine said. "The logistics alone, the schedule, the money. How did he manage?" "He was always good at organizing things," Linda said. "Good at planning, good at compartmentalizing." "Do you think," Catherine said slowly, "that he actually loved both of us? Or was it all just an elaborate lie?" That was the question, wasn't it? The central question that would haunt both women for the rest of their lives. "I think," Linda said finally, "that he did love both of us. I know that's crazy. I know it shouldn't be possible. But when he was with me, it was real. I could see it in his eyes, feel it in the way he held me. He wasn't faking that." "He wasn't faking it with me either," Catherine agreed, "which somehow makes it worse. If he was a con man, if he was just using us, that I could understand, that I could be angry about. But if he actually loved both of us, then we can't just hate him," Linda finished. "We can't just dismiss him as a villain. And that's so much harder." The funeral director approached cautiously. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need to make decisions. About the service, about the burial. Do you want to continue today or—" Catherine and Linda looked at each other. "We continue," Catherine said. "He deserves a proper funeral." "Agreed," Linda said, "but we do it together. Both families, no more separation." So the service continued. But it was unlike any funeral anyone had ever attended. 2 wives sat in the front row, not next to each other, but both in the front row. 6 children sat behind them, 3 on each side, slowly starting to acknowledge each other as family. The minister, having been briefed on the situation, spoke carefully. Robert Mitchell was a complicated man. He made choices that hurt people he loved, but it's clear, looking at these 2 families, that he was also a man who loved deeply, who provided for his children, who was present in ways that many fathers aren't. We can hold 2 truths, that he deceived and that he loved. Both are real, both matter. One by one, the children spoke. Emily talked about her father teaching her to ride a bike. Michael talked about the same thing. Different bike, different park, same patience and encouragement. David talked about Robert helping with his math homework every week. Jessica talked about the same different problems, same dedication to helping. Sarah cried as she remembered her father reading to her every night he was home. Jake cried, remembering the same different books, same gentle voice. The pattern became clear. Robert hadn't shortchanged either family, hadn't given less of himself to one or the other. He'd somehow given everything to both, which should have been impossible, but the evidence was right there, in 6 children who all felt equally loved by their father. After the service at the cemetery, something remarkable happened. As Robert's casket was being lowered into the ground, Catherine and Linda found themselves standing next to each other, not intentionally, just drawn by the gravity of the moment. And as the first shovel of dirt hit the casket, Linda reached out and took Catherine's hand. Catherine flinched but didn't pull away. They stood there, 2 wives of the same man, holding hands as they said goodbye. The reception afterward was held at a local community center. The funeral home had suggested separate receptions, but again, both women refused. They would do this together, all of them. It was awkward, deeply awkward. 2 families who should have been enemies, thrown together by grief and confusion. But something strange began to happen. People started sharing stories. Catherine's family told stories about Robert. Linda's family told their own. And the stories started to weave together, painting a picture of a man who had somehow lived 2 full lives. "He called me every morning," Catherine said, "like clockwork, 9 a.m. "He called me every afternoon," Linda said. 4 p.m. They looked at each other, realizing he'd scheduled even his phone calls, maintaining connection with both of them every single day. Emily showed photos of a vacation to the Grand Canyon in 1995. "Dad took us for my 13th birthday." Michael pulled out his phone. "He took us in 1996, same place, almost identical photos." The 6 half-siblings gathered around, comparing photos, comparing memories, slowly realizing that Robert had essentially lived the same life twice. Same dad jokes, same advice, same love and attention, just split between 2 families. "Was any of it real?" Sarah asked, voicing the question everyone was thinking. "If he was lying the whole time, was any of it actually real?" "It was real," Catherine said firmly. "The love he showed you was real. The time he spent with you was real. The lessons he taught you were real. He was a real father to all of you." "He was a real husband to both of us," Linda added, "even if it was only half-time for each." As the day wore on, a strange thing happened. The barriers between the 2 families began to break down. The half-siblings started talking more naturally, finding common ground, discovering that they actually liked each other. Emily and Michael exchanged numbers, promising to stay in touch. David and Jake bonded over sports. Jessica and Sarah realized they worked in the same industry. Catherine and Linda ended up sitting together, away from everyone else, just 2 women trying to make sense of an impossible situation. "What do we do now?" Linda asked. "I don't know," Catherine admitted. "I should hate you, you're the other woman." "You're the other woman," Linda countered, but there was no heat in it. "I met him second, but I didn't know about you. You didn't know about me." "We're both victims," Catherine said, "and we're both widows, and I don't know how to feel about any of it." They sat in silence for a moment. "I can't forgive him," Linda said finally. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I also can't hate him. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense," Catherine said. "I feel the same way." "What do we tell people?" Linda asked. "How do we explain this?" "The truth," Catherine said. "As impossible as it sounds, we tell the truth." In the weeks and months that followed, both families tried to rebuild their lives with this new, impossible truth at the center. The grief was complicated. The anger was justified. But underneath it all was confusion, because Robert hadn't been a monster, hadn't been cruel or abusive. He'd been a good father, a loving husband to both families. He'd just been 2 people at once. The children struggled with their identity. Were they legitimate? Were they from the real family? Or were they the other family? Eventually, with help from therapists and support groups, they came to understand they were all real, all equally valid, all equally loved by their father. Catherine and Linda didn't become friends. That would be too much. But they maintained contact. They had to. Their children were siblings. There would be future weddings, future grandchildren. They were connected now forever by the man who had loved them both. One day, about 6 months after the funeral, Catherine and Linda met for coffee. Not at either of their homes, but at a neutral cafe halfway between their neighborhoods. "I've been going through Robert's things," Catherine said. "Found a journal." Linda looked up sharply. "Did he write about all of this?" "Yes. The whole thing. How he managed it, the schedule, the lies, but also..." Catherine pulled out a page she'd photocopied. "Also this." Linda took the paper and read, "I know what I'm doing is wrong. I know I'm lying to everyone I love. But here's the truth I can't admit to anyone. I love them both. Catherine and Linda. I love them both completely. Not half love split in 2, but full love existing in parallel. I love Catherine's fierce intelligence, her laugh, her dedication to her students. I love Linda's gentleness, her strength, her compassion. I love the children I have with each of them. And the terrible truth is I can't imagine my life without any of them. So I live 2 lives. It's killing me slowly. The stress, the lies, the constant juggling. But the alternative, choosing one family over the other, would kill me faster. I know I'm a coward. I know I'm selfish. I know one day it will all come crashing down. But until that day, I'll keep going. Because I love them all too much to let any of them go." Linda finished reading, tears in her eyes. "He really did love both of us." "I think so," Catherine said, "which doesn't make it okay, doesn't excuse the lies, but it makes it understandable maybe, in some twisted way. My therapist says he probably had some form of compartmentalization disorder," Linda said, "that he was able to genuinely be present in each life, to not let the guilt from one bleed into the other. Or maybe he was just really good at lying," Catherine said, but there was no anger in it, just tired acceptance. "Maybe both things are true," Linda suggested. They sat in silence, sipping their coffee. "You know what I realized?" Linda said. "He gave me the best years of his life. He was fully present when he was with me. He was a good father to my children. Yes, it was built on a lie. Yes, he should have been honest. But the love was real. The time was real. I can be angry about how it happened and still treasure what I had. That's exactly how I feel," Catherine said, "and I think that's okay. We're allowed to feel multiple things at once, just like he apparently did." A year after Robert's death, Emily and Michael organized a gathering. All 6 siblings, both mothers. They met at a park, brought food, spent the day together. It was still awkward at times, but less so than before. The children had bonded. They were siblings after all. Half siblings, yes, but siblings nonetheless. Emily's son, 3 years old, played with Jessica's daughter, 2 years old. Neither child knew the complicated history. To them, they were just cousins, which they were. Catherine and Linda sat on a bench together, watching their grandchildren play. 2 women who should have been enemies, connected forever by the man who had loved them both. "I'm getting remarried," Linda said suddenly. Catherine looked at her, surprised. "Really? That's wonderful. Who is he?" "His name is Tom. I met him at the hospital where I work. He knows everything about Robert, about the whole situation, and he still wants to be with me." "I'm happy for you," Catherine said, and she meant it. "You deserve to be happy." "What about you?" Linda asked. "Are you seeing anyone?" "No," Catherine said. "I'm not sure I could trust anyone again, not after Robert. How would I know they were telling the truth?" "That's the hardest part," Linda agreed. "Robert took something from both of us. Not just the years, but the ability to trust completely, to believe what we're told." They watched the children play in silence. "Do you think he's watching us right now?" Linda asked. "Wherever he is, do you think he sees this? His 2 families together?" "I hope so," Catherine said. "I hope he sees what his choices led to. Not just the pain, but this. Us, here together. His children knowing each other. His grandchildren playing together. Maybe that's his redemption. That despite the lies, he created something real. 2 families that can coexist, maybe even support each other." "That's generous of you," Linda said. "It's not generosity," Catherine replied. "It's survival. If I hold on to anger forever, it destroys me. He's gone, we're still here, we have to figure out how to live with what he left behind." Over the following years, the 2 families remained in contact. Not constantly, not like one big happy family. But they maintained connections, attended each other's major life events, supported each other in times of need. David became close with Michael. They discovered they had the same sense of humor, same interests, started meeting for lunch once a month. Their wives became friends. Sarah and Jessica went into business together, starting a consulting firm. Working together, they processed their shared trauma, their complicated feelings about their father. They wrote a book together about their experience titled The Other Wife's Daughter. It became a bestseller, helping other people dealing with similar situations of parental deception. Emily and Jake remained more distant, but still cordial. They exchanged Christmas cards, attended each other's children's birthday parties when invited. Catherine never remarried. She remained single, focusing on her grandchildren and her teaching career until retirement. She kept photos of Robert in her house but put them away in a drawer. She could look at them when she wanted, but didn't need to see them every day. Linda did remarry. Tom was good to her, patient with her complicated past. He attended family gatherings with both sides, treating all of Robert's children as extended family. He never tried to replace Robert or pretend the situation was normal. He just accepted it and moved forward. 10 years after Robert's death in 2028, all 6 children gathered for a special occasion. They commissioned a bench in their father's favorite park with a plaque that read, "Robert James Mitchell, 1957-2018, complicated, father loved by many, remembered by all." At the dedication, Emily spoke. "Our father was not a good man in the traditional sense. He lied, he deceived, he hurt people he claimed to love. But he also raised 6 children who are successful, compassionate, and connected to each other despite everything. He taught us values, even if he didn't always live up to them himself. We can acknowledge both truths. He was flawed, but he was our father, and in his own twisted way he loved us." Michael added, "I spent years being angry at him. Angry that he lied. Angry that I had to share him without knowing it. Angry that he died before I could confront him. But eventually I realized he gave me a good childhood. He was there for me. He supported my dreams. Yes, it was only half the time, but it was quality time. And that has to count for something." Catherine and Linda stood together at the back of the gathering. Both were in their 60s now, silver-haired and weathered by life. They'd been through divorce, Linda from her first marriage to Robert, widowhood, both of them, remarriage, Linda raising children, helping with grandchildren, and processing the most unusual grief imaginable. "Do you think he knew," Catherine asked, "that it would end like this with all of us together?" "I think he hoped," Linda said. "I think that's why he kept both families. He couldn't choose because he loved everyone too much. He hoped somehow it would all work out." "It didn't work out," Catherine said. "Not the way he imagined, but it worked out. We survived. His children are thriving. We found a way forward." "That's more than a lot of families can say," Linda agreed. They stood in silence, watching their children, Robert's children, talk and laugh together, watching his grandchildren play, watching the legacy of a complicated, flawed man who had somehow created 2 families that, against all odds, had found a way to coexist. "I forgave him," Linda said suddenly. "Last year I was in therapy and my therapist asked if I'd forgiven him. And I realized I had. Not because what he did was okay, but because holding on to anger was hurting me more than it was hurting his memory." "I'm not there yet," Catherine admitted. "I'm not sure I'll ever be, but I've accepted it. Accepted that this is my story. This is what happened to me. I can't change it, so I have to live with it." "That's a kind of forgiveness too," Linda said. As the sun set on the dedication ceremony, both families gathered for a photo. All 6 children, both mothers, various spouses and grandchildren. A family photo unlike any other. A family that shouldn't exist, brought together by a man who lived 2 lives. The photographer counted down. 1, 2, 3. Everyone smiled. And in that moment, frozen in time, they looked like a normal, happy family. Which, in their own unique way, they were. The story of Robert Mitchell and his 2 families spread over the years. Sarah and Jessica's book was adapted into a documentary. News outlets picked up the story. It became a cautionary tale about deception, but also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. People asked the same questions. How did he do it? How did he maintain 2 lives for so long? How did no one figure it out? The answer was complex. Partly luck, partly skill at compartmentalization. Partly because people trust those they love. Catherine and Linda had no reason to suspect, so they didn't. The children had no reason to question their father's absences, so they didn't. But the bigger question was, why? Why did Robert do it? Through his journal and letters left behind, a picture emerged. Robert hadn't set out to live a double life. It had started with one mistake, one affair that resulted in pregnancy. And then, faced with an impossible choice, he'd chosen both. Chosen to split himself in 2 rather than abandon either family. Was it selfish? Absolutely. Was it cruel? In many ways, yes. But was it also a twisted form of love? A refusal to give up on anyone he cared about? Perhaps. He was a coward who couldn't make a choice, some said. He was a hero who refused to abandon his children, others argued. The truth, as always, was more complicated. Robert Mitchell was human, deeply flawed, capable of great love and great deception. Able to be a wonderful father and a terrible husband simultaneously, he contained multitudes, as all people do. His multitudes just happened to exist in parallel rather than integrated. Catherine, in her 70s now, sometimes thought about what she would say to Robert if she could see him one more time. Part of her wanted to scream at him, to demand answers, to ask how he could look her in the eyes and lie so easily for so many years. But another part of her, the part that had lived with the truth for over a decade, would probably just ask, "Did you really love us both?" And she already knew the answer. Yes, he did. Which didn't make it right. Didn't excuse the lies. But it made it understandable in a way that pure villainy wouldn't have been. Linda, happily remarried now, had a different perspective. Robert gave me 3 beautiful children. He was present for the important moments. Yes, I wish I'd had all of him. Yes, I'm angry he lied. But I don't regret my life with him. I just wish it had been honest. The 6 children, now adults with families of their own, had the most complicated feelings. Each of them had to reconcile the father they knew and loved with the man who had deceived them all. It wasn't easy. Many sought therapy. All struggled at times, but they also recognized that they'd been lucky in one way. They'd had an involved father. In a time when many children grew up without fathers at all, they'd had one who showed up, who cared, who was present. Yes, he was only there half the time, but many children got far less. "I can be angry at what he did and grateful for what he gave me," David said. Both things are true. On what would have been Robert's 70th birthday in 2027, all 6 children met at his grave. They brought flowers, 2 bouquets, one from each family, placed on either side of his headstone. The headstone read simply, "Robert James Mitchell, beloved father, 1957-2018. They debated what to put. Beloved husband seemed wrong given the circumstances, but beloved father felt true. He had been a beloved father. To all 6 of them. They stood in a circle around the grave, these 6 people who shared DNA and a father, but had lived parallel lives for decades. "I forgive you, Dad," Emily said, "for what you did, for the lies, for the complications you left us with. I forgive you." One by one, the others echoed her. Some meant it fully. Some were still working on it. But all recognized that forgiveness, even when not fully felt, was necessary for healing. "I wish you'd told the truth," Michael added. "I wish you'd trusted us with it. But I understand why you didn't. You were afraid of losing any of us." "You didn't lose us," Jessica said, tears in her eyes. "We're all still here. All 6 of your children, all of your grandchildren. Your legacy isn't the lies, Dad. It's us. It's the family you created, even if you created it in the strangest way possible." They joined hands around the grave, 6 siblings united by grief and confusion and love. "To Dad," Sarah said, "who taught us what not to do, but also taught us how to love deeply, even if he showed it in a messed up way." "To Dad," they all echoed. As they left the cemetery, David turned to Michael. "You want to grab lunch? My treat." "Sure," Michael said. "I'll text the others, make it a sibling thing." And so they did. All 6 of them going to lunch, talking, laughing, sharing stories, being a family, not a traditional family, not a normal family, but a family nonetheless. Catherine and Linda weren't at the cemetery that day. They'd paid their respects separately at different times. They maintained their relationship, but it had boundaries. Some wounds, even when forgiven, never fully heal. But both women could look at Robert's children, their children, and feel proud. Despite everything, despite the lies and the deception and the impossible situation Robert had created, his children had turned out well. They were good people, successful, loving, connected to each other. That's his real legacy, Catherine told her therapist. Not the double life, not the deception, but 6 good human beings who survived an impossible situation and found a way to love each other. The story of Robert Mitchell serves as a reminder that life is rarely black and white, that people can be both good and bad, loving and selfish, devoted and deceptive, that families come in all forms, even forms that shouldn't be possible. Robert Mitchell lived 2 lives. He loved 2 women. He raised 6 children. And when he died, instead of destroying both families, his deception ultimately brought them together. Not because of him, but in spite of him. Because his children and his wives chose forgiveness over vengeance, understanding over hatred, connection over isolation. It's not a happy ending in the traditional sense. Too much pain was caused, too many lies were told, too many years were spent in deception, but it's not a tragic ending either. Because both families survived, more than survived, they found a way to thrive, to support each other, to be there for each other in ways that transcended the circumstances of their connection. Catherine Mitchell lived until she was 85, passing peacefully in 2045. At her funeral, Linda was there. So were all 6 of Robert's children and 14 grandchildren. They mourned together. This woman who had been deceived but had chosen grace over bitterness. Linda Mitchell lived until she was 90, passing in 2053. At her funeral, all 6 children spoke. They talked about her strength, her forgiveness, her ability to move forward even when life had dealt her an impossible hand. And at both funerals, they told stories about Robert, not with anger anymore, but with a complicated affection, the kind of feeling you have for a family member who wasn't perfect, but was still family. He messed up, Emily said at Linda's funeral. Messed up in ways most people can't even imagine, but he also created something unexpected. 2 families that became one. 6 siblings who might never have known each other, but now can't imagine life without each other. That's worth something. That has to be worth something. The youngest grandchildren, born years after Robert's death, grew up knowing the story, knowing that their grandfather had lived a double life. To them, it was just family history. Strange, but not shameful. Just part of who they were. My grandfather had 2 families, one would say matter-of-factly. It was complicated, but everyone worked it out. And maybe that's the real lesson of Robert Mitchell's story. Not that deception is okay, not that lies can be justified, but that families are resilient, that people can survive impossible situations, that forgiveness, even when it seems undeserved, can heal wounds that anger never could. Robert Mitchell died at 61, his secret exposed, his double life revealed. But his legacy lived on in 6 children who chose connection over anger, in 2 women who chose understanding over hatred, in grandchildren who grew up knowing their family was different but not less because of it. The wife who discovered her husband's 2 families at his funeral could have walked away, could have demanded her children have nothing to do with Robert's other family, could have spent the rest of her life bitter and angry. But Catherine Mitchell chose differently, and so did Linda Mitchell, and so did all 6 children. They chose to move forward, together, as one impossibly complicated, beautifully resilient family. And that choice, more than anything Robert ever did, defined the true legacy of the Mitchell family. The end. Narrator's note. This story is fictional, but inspired by real cases of people who have successfully maintained double lives, sometimes for decades. It explores the complicated nature of love, deception, and family, and how people cope when the impossible becomes